Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video, and welcome to what might well be the most irrelevant setup I've done so far inside F125. Yes, today we return here to Bahrain for a wet setup and track guide. Of course, Bahrain, it's out in the desert. We've had 20 years of Formula 1 races here. It has never once rained. I think I've done one wet race around this circuit ever in like the 15 years I've been playing the F1 games, so I don't expect this one to be the most useful in the world, but hopefully, you know, if you do end up in a wet race, it could help you out a little bit more. Of course, I want to still do these for every single circuit inside the game, so if these do help you out, if they are useful, please make sure you hit that sub button. A massive thank you to everybody. We've just ticked past 13,000 subscribers on the channel. I'd love to get another one of these one day, so please, yeah, make sure you hit that sub button. And obviously leave a like on the video as well. But Bahrain, yeah, in the wet, it's not the least common circuit in the world, I think. I've never seen a wet Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. That video will be going live in a couple of days' time. As always, though, if you're new to this series and don't know what this is about, I provide you guys with a race-ready setup inside F125. I talk you around the circuit, what you want to be looking for, everything like that. And then last but not least, I leave you guys with a hot lap. Timestamps, as always, will be linked down in the description below. But yeah, let's head out then into our track guide. Well, unlike circuits such as Silverstone or Belgium, I can't imagine that in Bahrain, you know, top priority was about making sure the drainage was absolutely fantastic around this venue. I don't know what it is, but the circuit just looks almost wetter than a lot of other venues inside F125 then. But making our way out of the final corner as we get ready to start a lap here in Sakir. Of course, as always, you want to be getting the car over on the left-hand side for the run in towards turn 1. 8th gear on the way in towards the corner, and you want to be looking just as you go past the 150-meter board. Normally you brake at the start of the curb. Now I would say brake just as the grass ends in towards that first corner. Obviously, be really, really careful that you don't lock up the right-hand side wheel. Be careful as well that you avoid rear locking. I've tried to move the brake bias around so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Bring the car all the way down into 2nd gear, ready for turn 1, and then just try and hug the right-hand side on the exit of the corner. Through turn 2, you want to be back up into 3rd gear. Make sure you get as much of the car over the curbing as you can. But then I would say don't take too much curb on the exit of turn 3. It can really just unsettle the balance of the car and make it very, very awkward as you try and get the power down. You're going to be all the way up in 7th gear, though, as we make our way up the hill. Again, in the dry, you're braking at the 100-meter board. I would say in the wet, you want to be braking just at this kind of little tarmac strip in the road, if not ever so slightly earlier than that, in towards turn 2. Of course, bring the car all the way down in 2nd gear. You want to try and make sure you get the front end to bite through the first part of the corner. I know it opens up quite nicely on the exit, but I would actually compromise that slightly just to make sure you get the car nice and straight off of the turn. Get the throttle down on the exit of the corner, and then we're going to be all the way up into 5th gear as we make our way in towards the S's. Again, want to attack the curb on the way in, bring the car down into 4th gear. You really want to use the engine brake around this circuit. Leave the car in 4th through the first part, and then keep it in 4th through the second part as well. Avoid the curbing on the outside. It can really, really unsettle the balance of the car again. And then just as you go past these 2 Lenovo signs, that is going to be your braking reference as we make our way down in towards this next hairpin. 2nd gear on the way through. Again, try to go for a nice late apex as you get the power down on the exit of the corner. Again, F125 straight line traction zones. They are going to be your best friend inside this game. Back into 5th gear once more then, but you want to be braking just as you get to this white line in the road. Be very, very careful. I would always recommend braking slightly early than slightly late here. Otherwise, if you run wide and get down that curbing, it will really, really cost you. All the way down into 2nd gear once again, but just be very careful as well that you don't attack the inside curb. I just find it kind of bounces the car up and then it understeers you out wide on the exit. So avoid that curbing on the outside as well as we get the power down out onto the back straight. We've now navigated the worst of this circuit. Actually, the second half of the lap are not too difficult, in my personal opinion. All the way up in 7th gear once again. You want to brake just after the 100-meter board in towards the final part of the lap. Down into 4th gear through the first part. Really just be careful on the throttle, though, so you don't run too wide through the exit of the corner. Keep the car back over on the left-hand side as we make our way back up the hill. up through 5th and 6th gear. You are going to need a slight blender throttle through this right-hander just to make sure they keep the car inside track limits. Again, get it nicely wedged over the outside curb. Just brake as the DHL board goes out of shot. Down into 2nd gear through the top of the circuit. It just, again, allows you to get that bite through the front end. If you're feeling really confident, 3rd gear can work there, but I leave it in 2nd just to kind of maintain a little bit of extra stability. And then one more corner to go of the lap. You're going to be up in 7th gear once more. You're going to be braking just as you go under the DHL sign, just at that white line there as you get to the start of the curbing. 3rd gear through the entry. Be very, very careful that you don't get on the throttle too early because you want it to be one smooth motion off the exit of the turn. Full throttle then as you get up into 4th gear, and that is going to be a lap of the Bahrain circuit. Dare I say it, it is actually quite good fun in the wet as well, inside F125. So I, really did enjoy actually sorting out this hot lap for today's video. But yeah, let's go back to the pit lane then, and I'll talk you guys through the setup. While having a look then at all of the numbers for this setup today, 3430 wing, actually a much smaller increase than we see around a lot of circuits inside F125, especially if you're going up against the AI. You might find that they're still a little bit stronger than you around this circuit, but of course tyre wear as well is really, really important to try and look after inside this game. 80-35 when it comes to the diff settings, haven't actually really tweaked those much from what we tend to run on a dry lap, but again, where a lot of the traction zones are quite tricky to try and get the throttle down and rotate the car. You want that to be ever so slightly more unlocked than we see around a lot of venues inside F125. Minus 3.3, minus 1.8 for your camber angles. They're actually a little bit further away from the minimum than we normally see inside this game. 0.02 front toe, 0.13 rear toe. Again, they're fairly standard settings inside F125. 35.8 for your front and rear suspension. A little bit more neutral than we get in the dry. 11.13 on the anti-roll bars. These are actually quite firm around this circuit. But again, I just found it gave you a little bit more stability, gave you a bit more confidence on the exits of the corners. 25.52 for your ride height. Again, pretty much every lap you're going to just be upping those ever so slightly than what we run on the dry setups. 55.97 when it comes to your brake pressure and bias. Again, I find especially in towards turn 1, in towards turn 3, and then, in towards turn 4 even, and then turn 9 and turn 10, you've got to be really, really careful of the front locking. But obviously, the further kind of rearward you run the brake bias, rear locking becomes a much bigger issue very, very quickly. So I would say if you're still struggling with front locking at this brake bias and pressure, just lower the pressure down to like 96, 95. It should make your life a little bit easier. 29 for your front pressures, 21.4 on your rears. It should be a no-stop race if it's full wet around this circuit. But again, it's one of the weird circuits as well where the intermediates can become quite a decent tyre quite quickly as well there. But hopefully this setup helps you out. If it does, please do make sure, like I said in the intro, you drop us a follow, get yourself subscribed to the channel. Like I said, we want another one of these if we possibly could in the future as well. That's going to do it for this one though, and we'll return next time out at Jeddah in the rain. That is going to be one scary combo.
Well, it looks like we'll have this downpour throughout the session. Heavy rain conditions to remain right on through to the end.